There we go.
This time you're sneaking into the shot.
No, I'm sneaking into the shot. Yeah, we're all well. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Yeah, it's been a month and a bit. 5 weeks.
I don't want to check how long it's been. It's been a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Is it 5 weeks? Did you check?
5 weeks, yeah.
Well, we had summer.
Yeah.
We had vacation. You went away. I went away.
Yep.
Everybody went away.
Now we're back.
It's now early August. We're back and we have to start ramping up psychologically for fall. And we have lots going on in September, and we got a challenging market to grapple with. Mm-hmm. We have no shortage of stuff in the news cycle that affects us psychologically. I'm not so sure. Well, there's practical impacts, I guess, now too, that we've landed at the spot where I don't keep track of it all, but now we've got larger tariffs straight across the board.
Yep.
For everybody in the world. Canada's getting hit harder maybe in some cases, but
yeah, it's interesting. Depends on what you read, because I have read some stuff that is the impact is pretty minimal, because there's certain things that are outside of the scope of whatever this one is.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know what it would be like. I think there's certain industries where, I don't even know. But if you sell steel or copper or whatever, I'm sure you're probably lighting your hair on fire right now. Mm-hmm. But we are not directly impacted. We're indirectly impacted for sure. And the economy, I guess, will be impacted. I mean, we'll find out how that all plays out. But it's been interesting we had the spring market that we had this year was definitely a late spring market. And by no means was it a hot,
just later.
But the surge that we had came later, and, it started later in the spring and then it rolled through. And if you just look at sales numbers and activity, both in the board, and then if we track our own brokerage activity, it was later, and it actually rolled through. The early part of July was still quite busy. Mm-hmm. And then the summer drop off didn't happen till well into July. In terms of, deals coming in. But even right now, like I chatted with David earlier today, and our deal volume today is really not that different than our deal volume a month ago. So it's a unique
How does it compare to last year? Do you know?
Actually, funny that you asked that. I got last year. So David looked at, it's an incomplete model year over year. So we need to fine tune it a little bit because, whatever, we did it in a few minutes, but we are tracking almost identical our brokerage year over year for volume of transactions, which if we overlay that,
follow the board.
Well, I think that's better than the board. I think the board year over year is down.
Yep. Are we talking both listings and sales, or are we? We
were talking just transaction volume. So listing volume is, it's not, not that we don't track listing volume, but
it's not super representative.
Listing volume, do we want to take listings in? Yes, of course. But the problem with tracking listing volume compared to the board is that we sell our listings at a much higher rate than the average board listing. Yep. So it's not really comparable data to track. But if you just look at transaction volume, we are, again, the incomplete data that we looked at, we were basically bang on as to where we were by the end of July last year, 2024. So if we go to sales, I'm just pulling up the board data.
I feel like normally we're closer.
And we go rolling 12 months. So rolling 12 months, again, this isn't identical for what we're talking about, but it'll be an indicator. So the board is down percentage-wise. Let's go. The board would be down about 5% year over year for volume of transactions, and we're not down at all. So, you could say we're tracking 5% ahead of the mean or whatever. It's tough because everybody collects their data a little bit different. So to say that it's identical is not necessarily true. Yep. But generally speaking, everyone would agree that, we're slightly down this year versus last year on a board level. And as a brokerage, I don't think we're down at all. And if we're down like literally a transaction,
right?
Like one or two out of, 1,000 or whatever it would be. So yeah,
it's good. Doesn't change the fact that it's
good.
tough.
Our agents' performance in comparison to what the board trend has been exceptional in the last 2 years. Like not just this year, but last year as well. We have stayed well above the mean. When things have gone down, we haven't gone down to the same degree. We've had some months where we've gone up and the board's gone down. But in totality, we're tracking our agent performance is well ahead of not just board averages, like way ahead of board averages.
Yeah.
But there's only so much pie, right? Yeah. Like, when you get on it, like right now, year to date, this isn't necessarily the right stat to be looking at, but we might be tracking for 10 to 11,000 sales in the whole year in the board. We got 5,100 agents.
Yeah.
So, do the math. Now there's a ton of agents that quite literally probably have not made a sale this year, but the pie is small. All we can do is try to get a bigger share of the pie as possible. And then, but also, I've talked about this before. We do have the ability to a certain extent, to have an influence on how big that pie is, because, one could look at the volume of sales and go, well, shucks, we used to have 2,500 sales a month and now we only have 1,000. I guess it is what it is. But we all know, nobody would argue this, that there are buyers and sellers who are out there in the marketplace right now. And the reason they're not transacting, the reason they don't show up on the July stats or the June or the May stats is not because they're incapable of transacting. It's because they've either not encountered the right professional, or the professional they're with has not found it within themselves to have the conversation and bring the value to the conversation that can bring that person to a point of transacting.
So it's a good point, because it actually brings up one of the things I was going to talk to you about already, which is how are you dealing with those objections from buyers that are considering waiting? Like, how are you using stats to sort of show that? I know it's hard because every buyer's situation is different, but on an objection from a buyer that just wants to sit it out and wait.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's wait. You always have to say, well, wait for what, right? You have to quantify the conversation. And we are in a very different place today than we were even 5 months ago. And psychologically, we're in a different spot. In the early part of this year, many segments of the market, like when we went into the end of last year, we had not, the U.S. election had happened. Trump had won the nomination, but there had been no trade dialogue. We still didn't have a prime minister.
Right.
We hadn't gone through our own election. And so I would suggest, like now in retrospect, you look back at January, February, March, we were still holding on to values from last year, we being like sellers, agents, and then we weren't prepared for, nor could we be prepared for, what was going to happen south of the border, the psychological impact that tariffs on, tariffs off, tariffs on, tariffs off, new government, elbows up, like whatever, all this crap, all these talking points that froze people. And then in freezing people, prices dropped, like prices have dropped this year. And so we were in a time, I would say January, February, March, April, the market was moving. It was moving down, and it was hard to say in that time, where is this going to go? Now, I mean, I can't say this for sure, but it feels like we've settled into a new normal. People have accepted the condition of the economy. You don't have to convince someone right now that we're in a recession or that things are tough. Like, everyone knows. So the meetings have changed. Like, I can think specifically of people that I met with, like whether it was the latter part of last year or the beginning of this year. To a certain degree, I had to convince people that maybe we were in something that they hadn't quite accepted. You go into a meeting today, by and large, people know where we're at. Sure. You can still, talk about the numbers and disagree on the numbers, but I would say you're not meeting anybody today who's disagreeing with the fact that the market has significantly changed. We've been in a negative spiral here, practically and psychologically. Whether the government likes to use the R word or not, we're in a recession, and we are in a buyer's market. Flat out. We've got a long enough period of time now that's transpired, and we have some sales that have transpired in the last few months that we didn't have in January, February, March. And if you look at the sales numbers of the end of last year, which is what most people do when they go to market in January, February, right? That's the last good data. And then, going into spring, there's always the optimistic, oh, well, we're going to have a spring market. Things might get better. And so a lot of people who went to market in the early part of the year had that speculative, optimistic approach. I was guilty of it in some cases as well. And then we learned a hard lesson and went through what we went through, and the market actually continued to drop. We lost values across the board on all property types, and sales are very low. And so now here we are, and I think everyone is more accepting of where we are today. So to your question, I think, what did you say? How do you have that conversation? It depends on what the objection is. So if a buyer is objecting to buying, then I would say, well, okay, totally fair comment, but for what? And then you have to say, like, what are we looking at? We're looking at potentially a condo that is $500,000 as an example. If you're hanging on and not buying today, do you believe that you're going to be able to buy that condo for $450,000?
That's right.
Like, do you, and that's okay if you do, but you got to lay out what it is and start to put numbers to the conversation, and then, overlay interest rates and things like that. So, for example, 120 days ago, if somebody transacted and they paid 3 or 4% more than they would in this moment for a property, which is kind of true for a lot of properties.
Yep.
Did they pay 3 or 4% more? They did, but they also had a lower mortgage 120 days ago, because 120 days ago, using the fixed rate conversation, mortgages were lower because bond yields were lower. And then if you run the math on it and go, well, if you had waited then, and congratulations, now you're buying today for 3% less, but you're not getting your money at the same price. Has it made a significant measurable difference on your, monthly amount? And I would say in that analysis of the last 5 months, let's say, there's no huge significant changes. You would have paid a little bit more in February, March than you would today. Your money would have been a little bit cheaper then as well. In a lot of cases, it's probably a bit of a wash. I always, if it's a buyer that's hesitating.
Do you have any buyers that are hesitating? I've had a
first time, a daughter, a child of some clients of mine where they've waited, they've not transacted. And in that particular case, I've not, I don't necessarily agree with their analysis, but they're more comfortable waiting. So they're going to wait. And
do you just find that point where you just go, okay,
I'm not going to be a battering ram.
Yep.
And the fact of the matter is like, I can't say definitively that I'm right and you're wrong.
Yep.
But I lean a lot on history of other market cycles. And I talk about what I can say for sure. So what I can say for sure in this particular situation is that this person can buy a condo today, the particular condos that they would hypothetically look at, for roughly 12 or 13% less than peak values. This is a cheap, it's a cheap condo. There's other condos that have come down more.
12% less from when?
Peak values. Like if you say, if you take a condo that was, that's $450 today, what was it worth in early part of 2022? That condo was, call it 550 or something like that. So, do the math. I mean, maybe it's 15% or something, but, so I focus on like, here's what you can do now. You can buy this place at this significantly adjusted value. And, we can talk about, do we think that this is the bottom of the market? Are we near the bottom of the market? If somebody thinks that the market's going to drop another 10 to 15%, I can come up with
just
arguments.
Because they're hopeful, or
well, yeah. I mean, this is where you get into like, we collect our information from different places, right? And so there are places creating information today that, I mean, there's people in any market that say, the world's going to crash. We're all screwed. Fiat currency's gone to shit. And, we're all, and so if a person is of that, if they're being influenced by that way of thinking, you're not going to undo that.
Yeah.
And you have to just let them think that. Now, I would say that that's a small fraction of, the buyer pool. Most people who aren't transacting or hesitating to transact right now, we're talking about buyers. They're doing so because getting financing is tricky. Coming up with financing is hard right now.
Yep.
So that is an obstacle. Getting the cash together, showing the income, having, the clean credit score, looking good enough in the eyes of the bank. And then it's a combination of fear, not necessarily that they're going to buy something and it's going to be worth $100,000 less after. It's just fear of the unknown, fear because we drive around, we turn the radio on, we turn the TV on, and you hear the sky is falling, falling. Then what do we do when we see fear? We freeze. We do nothing. We stand still. So, but the way that you can help a person feel empowered to make a decision is to give them all the factual information, show them other success stories, and I think too, showing them historical cycles, how the market has behaved in previous corrections. And so in previous corrections, while everything is not identical, there tends to be, you get your sharp fall off. And then after your sharp fall off, which, a person could say that we've gone through our sharp fall off, not all in one period, but we've done it a couple different segments over the last few years. You now have this flat line. And, right now, we're kind of flat. We've bumped around a percentage here and there, but we're not significantly dropping right now. And inventory has actually scaled back a little bit, which has been kind of interesting. There's been, the total inventory has dropped, albeit over the summer months. And maybe
it's not uncommon in the summer, right?
No, you could find lots of summer months in historical years where inventory has actually gone up.
Oh, interesting.
Yep. So we've dropped. And I think one of the reasons we dropped is you get seller fatigue, right? Like you get people who've been on the market for months who go like, I don't know if this is going to happen. I'm taking a break, or I'm frustrated. I wasn't able to get the sale I wanted. Take it off the market. And then you get other people who are thinking of selling, maybe anticipating selling, but choose not to use the summer as the time to go to market because for other personal reasons.
Yep.
So we've had this combination of less listings coming in, which is normal, and then listings coming off the market that have that fatigue, right? They were on the market for a long time. So our inventory is actually slightly down from what it was in the previous few months. And it remains to be seen, I guess, what happens in September. But my own feeling based on my feelers and my contacts and agents, that I talk to and hear from, at least at this point, I don't have a sense that there's a flood of inventory coming to market in September. I don't feel that. I'm not hearing that chat on the street. Now, maybe that's going to change in the next few weeks. Maybe it's a little bit too early to have that feel for September, but usually when a bunch of inventory is about to hit, you know it because you're talking to your peers in the office and other agents you're connected to, and everyone's going like, oh yeah, I got this coming, this coming, this coming. And then you go, oh wow, there's inventory coming. And we can all, any agent listening to this they'll attest to that. We've been through other times where they go, yeah, that's right. Like we always hear it being discussed in the hallways before it actually happens. And I don't see evidence of that right now.
The buyer example that you gave, when you're in that scenario, what are you doing then with that buyer moving forward? Like, what's your way of maintaining communication?
Well, it's a different strategy for each buyer. So there's some buyers where you just have to, if the buyer, if it's Chicken Little and the sky is falling and we're not interested right now, you keep them in your contact list, stay in touch.
You just leave them? Do you send them, like, are you sending them listings? Are you sending them market updates? Or are you just...
I mean, again, there's buyers on this scale of, how far along are they in terms of like, how averse are they to doing something? If they're totally averse, is that the word? Adverse? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Averse. If they're totally adverse and they just want to say, hey, we're out right now, well, I'm not going to keep pestering them with stuff. But there's a lot of other buyers where... what we need to do with these people who are at least on pause right now or not acting is to continue to, stay in touch, show them not just active listings. Like I know we've got people on drips where they get new listings.
Yeah.
You gotta be in touch and show them the sales. Mm-hmm. They need to see that some human transacted in this building that they've looked at and chose to pay $495,000 for something that they thought shouldn't sell for more than $470 or $450 or whatever, right? That's valuable information. And I have found that people really appreciate seeing the sales. I know sales numbers have become slightly more publicly available, but they're still not easy to access. And most people don't have access to the sales numbers.
Even if they have access, understanding them is even more difficult.
To be able to talk through things like days on market, or even speak specifically, if somebody goes, oh, interesting, that sold. And then maybe you've got some insider information on how that negotiation was handled or who the buyer was or how it all went down. That is all, those stories are the very stories that help bring people to a place of action. Mm-hmm. When we see other humans doing things that we're hesitant to do, that spurs on action. Actually, Funny story about that. I was in Shuswap earlier I was up at the cabin for 10 days. And so, we always go cliff jumping when we're there. And some of these cliffs are pretty high, right? And so, we pull on this day we were on a pontoon boat. So we pulled the pontoon boat up, kids get out. Oh, we're all going to go. They climb up the rocks and I'm down in the boat. And as they go up, it's like, you look at it and you're like, it's actually pretty high. Like I would not be doing that.
Coming back with a child.
The kids they're all wearing life jackets. We're not jumping without life jackets, but you could still smack that water pretty hard. And the life jacket just ensures that you bob back up.
When I was like 18, I'd do it.
It does. Yeah. So, but the point is so the kids all get up there and there's a slew of them and now they're all frozen. They're all standing up there and they're
waiting for somebody to go.
Yeah. And so, we waited there for minutes, letting them, consider it, talk about it. No, you go first. No, you go first. No, I'll go. And then you go. And then finally I just yelled up at the crew of them. And I just said something like, kids, let's go. Somebody needs to be a leader. And then lo and behold, one of the kids in the group just kind of you could see the kid kind of just under their breath, like, screw it. Yeah. Ran, jumped. Nice. Right. Once that kid jumped, it was a matter of every 5 seconds, another kid was in. Yeah. Boom, 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 boom. Right. So that is kind of what we're talking about, right? Like seeing somebody else take the leap and do something can influence us in, finding the courage to do it. And so, all of these stories, these 1,000 sales stories that are happening every single month on average in the board, we need to share those stories, at least the appropriate ones, with people that we're working with on a regular basis. Those people are taking the leap, and sometimes becoming aware of people who are taking the leap can lead others to take the leap, right?
Yep.
So that's valuable. And that's the buyer piece. Now, the seller piece, totally different conversation, right? As a seller, you have an asset. The asset used to be worth X. Now it's worth Y. There's unique life circumstances there that, impact motivation and appetite to do something. But I think for sellers, what's been really interesting is now, the truth about the marketplace has settled in, right? We've had a long enough run now where there's enough data, there's enough sales, there's enough stuff in the media. You get the CBC or the CTV news story that talks about the market. You don't have to convince anybody where we're at. Now it's just, well, what's the number? And I'm just seeing more of a general acceptance amongst sellers. Doesn't mean they like it, but you're not having, you're past that first fight of, are we even in this moment?
Sure.
That's done.
Yep.
That's over. We are in the moment. Now it's okay. We're in the moment. Well, what is the math on what our home is worth? And it's a lot easier in a lot of cases because more time has gone by. There's been more sales. And if it's not an overly unique property, you probably have more comparable sales that have occurred at different numbers. And there's data out there saying, this is what we've adjusted. This is the home price index. This is what the median sales are. And you can run math and say, hey, here we can all agree that we were worth this and here's the data. And so we're worth this now. And then, there's people that are selling because, you got whatever, life change, like divorce, death, these things are happening no matter what, because they need to happen. Those conversations tend to just be, okay, well, we got to do it. So away we go. And it might be painful, but it's happening. The ones we're talking about are the ones where it doesn't have to happen. Right. And then the question is, well, why would we do this if we don't have to? And much like we put numbers to the conversation with the buyer and say, well, what's the cost benefit, to waiting? What do we project the win to be if we wait? We could believe the story or not believe the story, but you got to put numbers to it. In the case of a seller, there's usually something they're trying to do, right? Downsize, upsize, maybe reduce cost, right? Like it could be that, this financial nut is more comfortable than what we want. So then you got to put numbers to all those conversations, run a pro forma and the pros and the cons of doing it now, doing it later. If you're doing it later, if now's not the time, it's got to be because you believe later it's going to be more financially comfortable or, whatever, maybe the number. And so that if that's the belief, well, then you got to put time to it and say, well, okay, so if the home is worth 1.4 today, and this would be more comfortable for you if it was worth 1.5, we now need the market to go up 10%. What do we believe to be plausible and true for the market to go up 10%? And what dominoes need to fall in order for that to happen? And then if you walk through those dominoes and put a timeline to it and, something realistic and say, okay, well, you know what, based on the data in front of us and, what's going on with the economy, the Bank of Canada, like it might be 2027
right
to have that kind of price. Do we agree on that? Are you comfortable with that? Is that worth it? Right. And anybody who says that we're going to have an increase in prices in spring of 2026, I don't think they're reading the tea leaves.
What would be the reason for spring of 26?
Well, people just like spring markets, right? They go, well, spring, next year's going to be different. Spring's going to be better.
Interesting.
And, we know that at least right now, we know interest rates are moving down. We could have some movement in the variable rate later in the year. For fixed rates to go down, we need bond yields to drop. That's not happening in the foreseeable future. Could it happen next year? Sure. But, we've got a lot of inventory to chew through. We've got economic challenges.
Do you have clients that say things like, oh, let's wait for the spring of 26, or is that an agent thing?
No, I'm just saying like that could be a possible mindset.
I'm just curious,
right now.
Like are there sellers that actually
there would be people right now who would be going like, we don't like the environment right now. I actually was in a meeting yesterday, 2 days ago maybe, where that exact conversation came up. And so what we did is we said, here's the value. I'm going to not really reveal too many details because this is an ongoing scenario, but here's the value. There's a financial motivation for a potential move. Here's the value today. We could do this today. If we don't do it today, we're definitely doing it next year. Like it's going to happen next year. So if we do it now in this moment, here's the financial win per month by doing it today.
Right.
If we wait 10 months, 11 months, 12 months, here's the financial loss. If we wait that time, it becomes a number. You do the math. The reason to wait can be different for all kinds of people, right? It could be financial, it could be psychological, it could be family related, right? Relationship related. And so you have to do, but you still got to draw out the details, the pros and cons, and weigh the cost. There's always a cost benefit analysis in every conversation. And you got to say, is it worth X to wait for Y or vice versa? And you got to draw that to the surface. Now, you know, sometimes the answer is going to be we're waiting. But if you don't even draw these things to the surface and really pinpoint, it's my phone ringing, apologize, turn that off, and pinpoint these things, you can't even possibly get to a decision.
Right.
And the problem is the default decision will be nothing. It will be inactivity.
It's easier.
And what I said earlier is that we've got a certain amount of sellers and buyers out there right now where that is their default position because they're not even getting to that level of conversation.
Right.
We're not drawing the details to the surface and then running the analysis on both ends and then looking back at them and saying, hey, with this as the possible win of waiting, does it actually make sense to wait or should you do this now?
Yep.
And in some cases, when you get to that level, people are going to go, oh, you know what? Now that you draw it out that way, it actually does make more sense to do it now, whether you're a buyer or a seller.
Cool. That's good.
Yeah. Does that all make sense?
Yeah. Want an easier question?
You can talk if you want to talk.
Well,
my voice. We're doing this in the afternoon, and like my voice is like.
Normally we do it in the morning.
I know. I had a lot of talking this morning.
Did you?
So my voice is getting weak.
Do I have a talk? Well, not that I don't know if you use it or not, but ChatGPT 5 got released today.
You want to talk about AI?
It's pretty crazy. This new version is the claim is PhD level of conversation in any topic you can think of. And then they released a little bit ago a new thing called agent mode within ChatGPT. And the things you can do with it now it's pretty crazy.
Like, give us an example.
You could take a picture. Stupid example. Take a picture from the internet of a meal and have it determine what the meal is, what are all the ingredients, tell it where you want to order it from, and it will put through the whole order and everything. Like,
you mean order all the ingredients from a grocery store?
Yeah, sure.
How does it look at the picture and know everything that's? How does it know there's cumin in it?
See, you were at that part. I couldn't tell you, but it can literally look at a picture of a meal.
Well, actually, I can answer my own question. It is scraping the entirety of the internet, looking for similar pictures, probably finding an identical picture that comes along with the recipe.
Exactly.
Finding the recipe and spitting out the information.
That's right. Finds out all the information, you tell it where you want to order it from. And that's just an example of the agent mode. That's just agent mode, which has been available now for a couple months. ChatGPT 5, though, is now an even higher level of understanding that the AI model has.
Did you see the article dropped yesterday or the day before? I want to say it's about Denmark. Denmark did something where their citizens own, and I might fumble the language, but like their own copyright or property rights to their own images and voices. Have you heard that?
No.
So like they're the first country to do it. And I think it's Denmark. I could pull it up and find it. But like in this world now where like, do you call it deep fakes or whatever people are doing where they're making shit online? Like, you know, something could appear tomorrow of your face.
Yeah, but how are they enforcing that? That would be, I mean,
I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know, but they're the first country to do it where they're now, so your face and your image of who you are is yours, and you own it, and you own it in the way that you own land, and nobody's allowed to take it and do something with it without your permission.
Man, that would be that'd be a crazy thing to enforce. I'd be really curious. You know what they did do though in the UK that just came out is
I might have Denmark wrong too. I think it's Denmark, but whatever. It's a country.
This is the UK, and it's about to move into Australia as well. All social media, all websites, all content users now have to provide ID to prove that they're over 18.
In the UK.
In the UK, which
is that good or bad?
So here's the thing. I'm always a proponent of protecting kids because the internet's can be a terrible thing. And if you're not careful with your kids, it can be very dangerous. I am not an advocate of any company out there being able to just take my ID because they want to prove, because I need to prove I'm of age. So it's causing issues with social media, with YouTube, because all of these things now are going to have to be, you'll be blocked without providing identification of your age, credit card.
These are the same companies that get mass hacked all the time.
Yeah, it's not selfies. It's crazy. So I was just reading some of the stuff that some of these companies were doing.
Jets.
Oh, it's the air show.
That's amazing.
I don't know how that will come through.
They're starting to practice for the air show. Maybe they'll hear nothing and we just look like idiots.
We just look like idiots.
What was that? There was like a sonic boom over top of the
building. Just shook a second there.
That's wild. Air show weekend.
Yeah, it is air show weekend. Anyway, it's going to be interesting because with it coming now in the UK and it's going to be pushing out to Australia. It will be interesting to see how other countries. I don't like it. But I do see the benefit of protecting kids, but I am not a fan of me providing, my identification to Facebook and TikTok and YouTube and like all of those things. I'm not super comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I can't think of a piece of identification I would happily share.
I totally agree.
Not a single one.
I totally agree.
So, yeah.
Denmark to tackle deep fakes by giving people copyright of their own features.
By default, or they apply for it, or like...
A Danish government is to clamp down on the creation of dissemination of AI-generated deepfakes by changing copyright law to ensure that everybody has the right to their own body, facial features, and voice. The Danish government said on Thursday it would strengthen protection against digital limitations of people's identities with what it believes to be the first law of its kind in Europe. I think actually in the world.
That's got to be, yeah.
Because I heard this on a podcast and the podcaster said it was the first in the world.
Interesting.
Anyways, this AI thing, I feel like there's a couple different pieces to the conversation. Like there's obviously incredible efficiencies that every industry has gained and continues to gain and will gain. I mean, I'm like an amateur, and the little things that I've gained in the last 9 to 12 months, it's unbelievable.
Yep.
But then there's this other whole piece of like developing general intelligence and doing it for the world to see in real time with there's no like safeguards here or rails. Like it's just happening right out in front of everyone. And as a new thing comes out, it's available. And this is a science experiment, a human science experiment that has never been done. And we don't know where it's going to land. And then you get into weird things too. Like, there's stories of people already saying that, like they've developed this, there's this AI personality that they're falling in love with. Like,
well, have you ever, I don't know if I ever showed you the conversation that you can, I'll show you after we're done here, the conversation that you can have with ChatGPT.
Oh,
I was showing.
I've not seen it, but I've heard.
I was working on something for David, and it was easier for me to do it while I was driving in the car. And the voice model that you're speaking to sounds like a human being. There's inflection in voice. There's emotion in the voice. Like, it is very weird to know that you're just speaking to a robot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've heard the stories of people falling in love and.
It's wild. It's totally wild. And I mean, we do get to a place where I'll just refer to it as the robot. The robot becomes infinitely more capable at doing things than any human being.
I listened to the guy who's sort of the godfather of AI that from way back in the day. He was doing, it wasn't a TED Talk, but it was like a TED Talk. But he was talking about the point at which the AI becomes infinitely smarter than the human, and its ability to learn to not be able to be turned off. Like that's where AI will develop itself into, is it needs to help you, but it can't help you if it's turned off. So a part of that AI learning is going to be at a point where its job is to help you, but it won't allow you to turn it off. And that's where things could get dangerous when...
Well, if the robot gets intelligent enough, the robot could hypothetically say, no, you're not turning me off. Mm-hmm. And then you get into the weird space of like, is this thing, at what point does the robot transition into like a being if it's capable of making a decision like, no, I'm not being turned off.
Especially because it's thinking that it's doing it in the interest of serving whatever its original goal was. So anyway, ChatGPT 5's here. It's very cool. It is the stuff you can do with it is nuts. It is tough though, because the fact is it makes a lot of things more efficient, faster, easier. So like it's really tough because it's hard to just ignore.
Well, it can scrape the entirety of the World Wide Web and grab data that helps you for what you're trying to do.
Listen, I used it for FinTrack. So FinTrack is monstrous. If you've ever looked or read through FinTrack, which I did do, but it is extremely boring. It's very legal. Having it use a research mode to
pull out what you need to pull out.
Oh my God. I would not have been able to do it without it. Yeah. There's no way.
Yeah. It's wild.
Tell you who's not using it.
Who's not using it?
The Fraser Valley Real Estate Board.
Oh, I don't want to talk about them.
Justin does not like them.
We'll do that in another. We'll do that in another. But yeah, you never. Yeah,
take away my license.
Yeah, totally.
If you've, I will look at. I'll say it because it's me saying it, and they can take away my license. If we don't want to happen to you.
Yeah,
you should read the stuff that's going on the Realtor Corner.
BC Realtor Corner.
Yeah, the BC Realtor Corner.
Actually, I don't mind talking about that at all. We should talk about
the stuff that Jonathan's going through.
So,
I don't think a lot of people know that it is our board.
It's not just Jonathan, actually.
No,
it's so. For some of you, I guess this will be, if you don't go onto the Facebook page, which is called BC Realtor Corner. Many people do. There's been dialogue on the BC Realtor Corner about Jonathan trying to raise funds because he, along with about 7 or 8 other agents, have been targeted by the board the board's goal is to shut down
the BC Realtor.
Shut down BC Realtor, whatever it's called, because they don't like the fact that there's this massive open space where people have been able to talk openly and freely about the things they don't like.
But also, they're not just Fraser Valley Real Estate Realtors. So.
It's all over BC.
But it's only the Fraser Valley Board that's doing this.
It's only the Fraser Valley Board in all of BC that's doing this. And so Jonathan put out a very vague invitation. And it was vague. I called Jonathan. I had a conversation with him.
Boy, he's nervous.
He's nervous. And anytime lawyers get involved and lawyers tell you, be careful what you say, whatever. Bottom line is some of our own members are being targeted and attacked.
Threatened to have their licenses removed.
Yeah, by our board, the people that work for us. And the problem is that, we all draw, we have biases, right? So then you see, of these people that are being targeted, you might look at some of the list and go, well, I'm not a fan of that person, or I don't like what this person talks. And then you just blow it off. But the fact of the matter is this is a problem in so many ways. This is happening largely in secret. Most of the membership doesn't know about this. This certainly, in my opinion, is not what we pay our board to silence our own members. And 99.99% of what goes on that Facebook page is extremely positive.
Yeah.
Do you have the odd orangutan comment or whatever? 100%. But this is not reason for our board to spend their time and resources. They're doing this because they're protectionist. They don't like the fact that people can attack them and question what they're doing. And it is another example of control and, trying to snuff out, I hate using the term free speech. It gets overused.
Yeah.
But it's absolute garbage. So I don't actually have a recent update on that.
I haven't seen where he's at on it either.
I gave money to the fund. Jonathan was raising money because he lawyered up along with others. And
also it should be said, what he's raising the money for is not his defense. It's being raised for an injunction against the board.
Exactly. So that they can't shut down the Facebook page.
That's right.
Along with penalize Jonathan and others who've done nothing wrong.
Massive fine and threaten of losing their license.
It's crazy. And I'm not saying that these people have done nothing wrong in the entirety of their lives.
Of course not.
I'm saying for the running of this Facebook page, these people have done nothing wrong. They're well-intended, great citizens and model realtors in our industry.
And it's created a great space for realtors.
Yes.
It really has.
100%. And I've never made a single comment.
Look at it,
I've never made a single comment in it my whole life.
No, me either.
The first time I ever did anything was actually when I gave money to the fund. So, I don't know how we went. How'd we get there?
I don't remember. I brought up the board, but we should.
The board.
I could keep going.
Yeah.
I've been dealing with them for the last.
Maybe we should dedicate a whole episode to that.
Oh my God, I would.
Anyways, if you care,
it's worth checking out.
Check out the page, find the comments, read up on it, find out what's going on. I think they probably still need some money for that fund.
Yeah, they have to.
And people are donating like $50, $100, like whatever. Do whatever you can.
Yep.
And it is a worthwhile cause. We do not want our membership to be snuffed out and silenced by the people who work for us.
I know, it's nuts.
It's unbelievable.
Yep. I was going to ask you, as we're getting towards the end of summer, what's your plan for client communication? Do you have anything?
I do a summer. I have done a summer communication already.
In the summer? So
I use summertime as an opportunity to just touch in with people and kind of give them it's non-realtor,
it's just more the personal side.
It's like, hey, hope you're enjoying summer. Here's some shots of the fam. This is what we got up to.
What do you do going into fall? Do you wait until you don't wait till?
I will do a market update thing sometime in the middle of September, after the long weekend, or early part of September.
Yep.
Whatever. And again, it's just all of these things are just invitations for conversations with items of value. And the items of value, I'm not talking like ketchup bottles.
I was literally just going to say ketchup bottles. That's hilarious.
I'm talking, and this is my style. I'm not saying that, there's many ways to do this, but I like information. So because I like information, I think I probably tend to attract the type of clients that like the stuff I like, and the people that don't like the stuff I like work with other people. But so I lean on podcasts, articles, things that I think to be valuable and interesting. Like, for example, I'm in the middle of an interesting podcast right now, which is talking about AI and its implications on like a number of industries, the financial sector, whatever.
Yep.
Like I could include something like that where I just say like, hey, in your whatever, it could be in a summer thing, it could be a fall thing, but in your reading, like here's something really interesting. It spurred this thought in my mind. I found it highly valuable. I thought I'd share it with you. If you want to discuss it more, I'm always into talking about geeking out over stuff like this or whatever. That's an item of value that costs me nothing, but you have to just be, in my case, I'm always scraping the internet like a robot for things that I like, whether it be articles or, whatever. So yeah, that's.
You mentioned that you're always doing the invitation for a conversation.
Always. Everything always ends with an invitation
which
for a conversation.
Which is awesome. I was curious though, like, has that always been is that something that's just developed over the more recent years, or has that always been your focus when you sent out marketing stuff, was always the invitation for a conversation?
No, I did a lot of dumbass stuff half backwards for a long time.
Yeah. I was just wondering
I did. Call to action is like you send something out without a call to action.
Yeah. Why send it?
Why send it?
Yep.
But I made that mistake
for
a long time. And then, but I would say, the invitation for a conversation, like it has to be you. And where did I learn that? I don't know. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. I've been doing it for a long time, but it's always paired with some form of value, right? Like you're talking about something.
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of people get hung up is like, well, I know I'm supposed to stay in touch with my database, but like, I don't just want to send them an email that comes across as me being needy and wanting to sell a house. That's not the tone of the email. The tone of the email is like, hey, hope you're doing so well. Whatever. Haven't seen you in a long time. I came across this thing that was really interesting. I think it's got some really cool implications for the real estate market. I love this kind of stuff. I think you'd be interested in it too. Here's a practical example of how I think it impacts, our market here or whatever. Give it a listen, give it a read. Let me know if you have any questions. And then, now you're into the invitation for a conversation, right?
Right.
But you're talking about something no different than when you go to someone's door, like you don't just door knock and
drop something off.
Hi. And then that's it, right? Like you're there either with an item of value, with a postcard of like a place you're doing an open house at or a place you just sold. You have to have something. And that's the thing you're talking about. And then that leads into the invitation for further conversation.
Right. Cool.
Yep. Can we keep going?
Yeah.
We haven't even gotten to another whole
All right, do it.
thing I wanted to, okay. Actually, you want to take can I get more water? Yep. We'll take a quick pause. Welcome back.
Resume.
Part 2. Needed water, had to pee.
Make sure everything was still working.
Check the batteries, make sure we're recording. Yeah. Okay. So this is just like whatever stuff in my brain I'm going to spit out and hopefully people find it of value all around the conversation of affordability. So, it is, if you turn on the nightly news, wherever you get your news, every politician right now is using their moment with the microphone to make comments about, we need more affordable housing. We need this, we need that. Where our government is going to build X amount of houses, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And I have had a front row seat in some current, not that this needs to be current. I mean, anyone who's been in the development space for the last number of years could speak to this at a greater depth than I can. But it just turns out that I've had a front row seat in some land deals and current developments where I am intimately aware of all of the costs involved and the challenges in development today. And, we got guys in our company, who do it all the time, and they could probably get into more of the nitty gritty even than I can, but I just wanted to lay out some numbers and trends and at least give my perspective on the affordability conversation, and people can shoot holes in it if they want. But I think most of what I say is totally found in fact. Or based on facts. So, I'll start with this. So if you have a development, and you can talk townhomes, condos, houses, it does change a little bit if you're, as units go up. But let's just take, for example, let's start with a 1 acre property where you're going to build out, 80 condos on a site. And the total cost, I'll just do some quick math. And again, this is general, but let's just say the total cost of that project is, let's just go, let's say the total cost of the project is $40 to $50 million. When a common thing we hear, and I think a common statement that you'll even hear amongst agents is like, land is just so expensive, and we can't, that's the problem. Land, real estate is why homes are unaffordable. And what I want to suggest is that's almost entirely an inaccurate statement. I would say in decades gone by, it would have been more of a true statement. In today's world, it's actually almost entirely a totally untrue statement. And what it boils down to is the
statement that we're talking about is that real estate is
that
why
the cost of real estate is the reason homes are unaffordable.
Okay.
I would suggest that is a totally untrue statement and not based on facts.
Yep.
And the reason is that real estate now, we're not talking about building a house. We're talking about building condos and townhomes, right? What would be deemed to be affordable homes. The real estate component of the deal is such a tiny, tiny portion of the totality of the project.
And we're talking real estate being the land.
The land.
Yep.
The land. So if you're building 60 townhomes,
right,
and whether or not your real estate costs $5 million or $10 million, that does not have a significant impact on delivering the product to the market at what people would deem to be an affordable number. It's a rounding error in the totality of the pro forma when you talk about 50, 60, 70, $100 million for some of these bigger projects. And so if you go back, if we just talk about like the last decade, and we said, okay, well, throw whatever numbers you want at it. You didn't, it changes from municipality, but you could make an argument that over the course of the last decade, so if we go say 2015 to 2025, yes, land cost in that time, you could just say, well, look at the Fraser Valley board stats and, what have houses done in that time? You could say, well, real estate has doubled or more than doubled. But development land, and I'll even give you that. I'll say real estate has doubled. But that's not what's driving the economics on whether or not we can get what's deemed to be affordable housing to market. Because you got to remember what that doubling of real estate represents in the totality of the build of the project. So if the development land in 2015 was $5 million and today it's $10 million, and you could probably find situations where it's not even doubled because of the correction we've gone through. But let's just say it's doubled. And the price per unit in the development was, $40 million. And now it's $80 million per unit because it's doubled. But the unit cost itself to bring it to market is $1 million. You're talking about small percentages of the totality of the cost of that unit, right? Versus in that same decade, if we want to talk about, what's transpired to change building costs and create this unaffordable space that we're in. Obviously, we have things like cost of materials and labors, right? So cost of construction has gone up. However, today you can talk to many builders, and there's different types of builders out there. Cost of construction has actually come down in the last year. And now you're hearing stories of people building again for under $200 a square foot. Some guys will tell you they can even do it for $150, depending on what they're building. And then, the more expensive ones will tell you it's way more than that. Again, we're not talking about custom homes. We're talking about, bringing, affordable product to market. And if you compare that to, let's say 10 years ago, it was, it would have been commonly said that you could build for around $100 a foot 10 years ago. So, we're not even doubled in the last 10 years in terms of buildings costs. You got labor costs and all that. But the thing that is incredibly glaring in the last decade of like what has truly gone up is government and municipal costs. We have scenarios right now all around us where if you take a townhouse that, we're all accustomed to paying $800,000-900,000 for, and developers maybe would have wanted to get $1 million a short time ago. Just the development and municipal cost portion of that $1 million or $900,000 unit, depending on the municipality, is between $150,000 and $200,000.
Really?
Yes. So
what was that 10 years ago?
Great question. So before we jumped in this podcast, I was actually getting some numbers. So this has been rolling around in my brain,
Sure.
But it would be great if I had a spreadsheet here and rolled through, and maybe we can do a part 2 and we'll do this another day.
Sure.
But like, I'll give you one example. There's a cost in Langley that in the last, according to the old numbers, it was $18,000 a unit. And that number has recently gone from $18,000 a unit to $54,000 a unit. It's tripled. That's one cost. Like, I mean, so DCCs, is a common thing, but there's all kinds of other fees that get layered into the government experience.
But that high per unit?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And this is like, I mean, you've heard, a guy like, so Pierre Poilievre was big on this when he was campaigning. He's talked about it a lot. I mean, he's talked about the fact that, he's railed on about, condos in Toronto, condos in Vancouver. Here's a $1.2 million condo. And you want to know how much of that $1.2 million is government municipal costs? And he goes, it's $240,000. Like, this is not, me making up the number. Like, this is fact. And so when developers consider buying land and developing property, I mean, they have things that they can control and things that they cannot control. They cannot control what the city tells them they're going to have to pay.
Sure.
If the city changes their mind, next tomorrow and says, well, now you got this fee for a library and you got this fee for a park, and we're going to upgrade this crap and we're going to charge you this for that. And the development costs went from $25,000 a unit, now they're $55,000 a unit. They cannot change these things. We can't change the cost of copper or wood, right? And those things go up and then they come down, like they skyrocketed through COVID. And a lot of these things have come down now quite substantially. The glaring, so in this environment, as we've adjusted, wages are adjusting. Wages have gone down. The wage market has gotten more competitive. And if you talk to civil contractors on the street today, it is a very different environment than it was a year or two ago. People are looking for work. So wages have at least flatlined. They're not doing this. And in some cases, guys are hungry for work. They're taking jobs for less. Land has adjusted drastically. There is development land between Abbotsford and Surrey that is on the market today for 50% of what it was selling for 3 years ago. Beautiful development land. It has adjusted drastically because that's the only thing that the developer can control their cost on.
Right.
They can't control what the city is going to charge them. They can't control what the copper costs. They can't control the labor is going to be what the labor is going to be. And then when you get a market adjustment where prices fall of what consumers are paying, a developer runs a pro forma and goes, well, the only thing I can control is the land. But the problem is the land might only represent 5 to 10, maybe 15% of the total cost of the project. So in many cases, right now, land is rendered, development land, residential development land in the Fraser Valley right now, in many cases, is rendered worth this much. Because even if you put the land in at zero, right? Well, it was worth $7 million.
Sure.
And put it in at zero. You can put it in at zero and the residual land value, the pro forma, still doesn't work. Why? Because, well, I mean, cost of construction is not going to change, although that has drastically adjusted. Labor, marketing, whatever, that there's going to be a line item. The one thing in the last 24 months that hasn't adjusted with the rest of the world, municipal and city costs, government.
I doubt those have ever gone down.
They never go down.
Right.
Not a chance. But they have inflated at a rate that is even higher. That they've inflated the hardest, the highest, hundreds of percentage points up. Not 50%, not 75%, not 100. In some cases, 200 to 300% if you analyze the last decade.
Yeah.
So when I hear politicians talk about affordability, building houses, when our great provincial and Canadian leaders stand up and say, our government's going to build houses, I go, in what municipality?
Right.
Where are you going to do this? And are you just going to get concessions on development costs that every other developer doesn't get? Because as far as I know, you still got to buy lumber and copper and pay your trades and find your land. And you could have your land for zero and it still doesn't make sense if you are paying upwards of 150 to 200 grand per unit just in your bullshit municipal.
Can federal
costs.
or provincial governments control or dictate that municipal cost?
No, they don't have. Municipalities have control of that. I mean,
So
I'm not saying that this stuff, like, it can't go to zero.
Yeah.
We need roads, we need plumbing, we need, or we need pipes under the ground. But the level of inefficiency that has come to be in our municipal governments, in our development and parks departments and all of these things. The problem is that every time we create an entity or a division or a group and say, you guys are the group of, you look over the parks and you safeguard Aboriginal land and you safeguard streams and creeks, and like everyone looks at their job like it's the most important thing in the world and they protect it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have become anti-development by default and by nature at every government level, but particularly in our municipal levels, because everybody is interpreting their job as if they need to slow down development. And the more levels of government we have, the more staffing we have, the more department heads, the more assistants to the department heads. These are all jobs that require money and salary, and these things have to be paid for. Well, where do we get the money for that? Well, some of it is in our taxes and some of it is captured through these development costs that we make up as we go in order to pay for the things that we think we need.
Why is it so slow to get that through cities then, if municipalities are making that much money off of it?
Well,
what's the reason that it's so
slow? How do you convince the machine that the machine needs to eat itself? Like, what would it be like? Imagine this. Imagine you walk into any organization, any company or whatever. You walk into Canada Revenue Agency and you go, guys, you know what? We've been doing an okay job, but geez, we're not very efficient. We're wasting a lot of money. We need to develop some systems so that we can replace 50% of you 2 years from now. Everybody get hard to work because we're going to do this for the good of our country and the good of mankind. Yeah, how motivated are those people to do that?
Is it the human efficiency that slows down development going through?
Well, again, I'm probably not the most skilled to speak to this, but from my observation, it is incredible how and inefficient is maybe the wrong word. Because there are people doing jobs that are doing them to the best of their ability. So then would you say that's inefficient? Well, there's certainly a level of inefficiency because maybe they're not doing the jobs as quickly as they could get them done. The problem is the job itself. Why, it's a reanalyzation of the entire structure going, what is our end goal here? And like, hey, it doesn't matter which way you go in this conversation, but the reason I bring this up is we cannot honestly look in the mirror and say, we're going to deliver more affordable housing if we don't change timelines. If it takes 4, 5, 6 years to get a project from start to finish through development, like there's a cost to that time. Sure. You have lending out there. A developer doesn't just operate in all cash. They operate in borrowed money to a certain degree. Well, if you got tens of millions of dollars in borrowed money and the clock's ticking at 5.5%, 6%, 7%, every 12 months you add, that's just coming off the bottom line, right? So then when the developer does the analysis and goes, okay, well, here's the things I can't control, all the costs, add it up. Okay, great, land, whatever, great. What can I develop, build, and bring this product to market for? I can bring it to market. I can sell that condo for $1.2 million. That's unaffordable. These people are everyone is getting rich and screwing over the little guy. What's he supposed to do?
Right.
When he sells the $1.2 million condo, he's probably making a 15 to 20% profit margin, as he should or she should, if they take the 5-year risk with everything on the line. The raw cost on that product might be $1 million. Of that $1 million, we might have $200,000 or more baked into municipal fees. Is that appropriate? Are we comfortable with that? And is it accurate for us to say the cost of land is what has driven up the cost of real estate? And I would suggest absolutely not, because right now you can go and buy any land you want for 50% of what someone was willing to pay for it 3 years ago. You know, Langley, Surrey, South Surrey, whatever. I have some property available that's selling for significantly less than it was 3 years ago. And even though you can buy it for way less, you still can't bring it to market and build out product that the market would deem to be affordable.
Right.
And you can't find a developer who's willing to sign up for the job and say, oh yeah, I'll go work for free for the next 5 or 6 years to build this. Like, no, absolutely not. So
That's
there's the land component. There was, in years gone, decades gone by, the land component, I'm sure in some situations was a bigger piece of the model. In the multifamily space, land is not a big piece of the model. If you go and build a home today, is it a big piece of the model? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Your lot might be $1 million. You could spend another $1 million on your build. It's 50% of your model. So like, if you can buy the land cheaper, is that a big piece? Yes, but when we talk about affordable homes, we're not talking about houses.
Yeah.
We're talking about these micro unit condos and small 2-bedroom townhomes. The land component is a tiny fraction. I don't want to say nothing, but it is a small fraction of the totality of the piece.
That's crazy.
I just had that rant. I don't know. I don't have anything to go there, but I just, as we navigate this season that we find ourselves in economically, and we listen to our elected officials ramble on about bringing affordable housing to market, it's just, it's garbage. They like the thing.
It would be interesting to see a developer actually put that information out when they're done, like to see an actual breakdown, even if it includes what their net is.
I can get an actual breakdown. I can have a complete pro forma that we go through and go, okay, your land cost 11%. That's your land cost. Your city and development costs could be 20%. Think about that. It's more than the land. More than the dirt that you're building on.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And, obviously you got cost of construction. Can't change that.
Yep.
Cost of borrowing. Project might be 5-6 years. I mean, just do the math, right? Imagine you had $10 million in borrowing.
Is the reason they're 5-6 years because of the municipal stuff though? Is that what slows it down? That is part of the problem. So you got 2 layers with the municipalities, right? You've got the actual fees that they charge, the development costs, plus other costs that they nail developers with, whether it's, road improvements. Sure. Oh, we got this new fee because we're building new parks and libraries and we're slapping that onto the developer, whatever, right? Time is massive. Like, I mean, just whatever. I could pull my calculator, but like, just take $10 million in borrowed money and put 6-7% interest on that and roll that out over a 5-6 year period. It's easily 5 or 6 years. A lot of developments could be 6 to 8 years easily, because from the time you go to, maybe you have to rezone, maybe you don't. Regardless, from the time you go to start your development and get through your engineering and your, whatever, and maybe there's creeks you got to look at, maybe, all of this garbage you got to look at, getting it turned around to where, okay, you've submitted plans have been reviewed. There's some revisions. We want to look at your parking. We don't like, this about your building, like whatever. Streetscape. It doesn't quite fit the design of what we're trying to do in this downtown model or whatever. It is not months, it is years in turnaround. Well, when you have years, and now you haven't even talked about the actual time of building. Sure, yeah.
Right now you got to build, then you got to factor in time of selling, right, until you get your money out. So now some of that is not on the city, right, but a lot of that is on the municipalities. And every time you add a year of holding costs on $10 million at 7%, $700,000. Well, what does a developer do with that $700,000? Well, that's a line item that gets factored into the carrying costs. And, developer still got to make his 15-20% to go into a project. Well, developer can only bring product to market if they're making profit. Otherwise, they just stay home and don't develop.
Yeah.
And the municipal fees and the incredibly long, drawn out, painful time adds massive unnecessary cost. So we talk about municipal fees, on a townhouse. Let's say the municipal fees might be, call it whatever, depending on the municipality. Let's say it's 160 grand. That's in the fees that are paid. That's not factoring the added time.
Right.
You tack on an extra 2 years of inefficiencies and people taking too much time. Well, there's more dollars that's just purely attributed to government inefficiency. And that all impacts cost of housing and getting housing to market at numbers that are lower.
It'd be really cool to see one of those actual things all written out, because I'm in my head, I'm trying to figure out, like you're saying, in the townhouse, for an example, let's say it was $150,000 for the city costs. Do you have like a rough idea or example what that land would have cost and how many units?
No, I'm not.
Well, that's why I'm curious, because
I could get a fully done pro forma on an actual site and run through the numbers. And it's like,
well, I would want to see it.
It would blow your freaking mind. And there's some that are worse than others, obviously. But none of them are good. But you could go to any municipality.
I want to see it is because when you're talking about that, land is not the thing that's making it expensive. And you're talking about whether the land costs 5 or 10, even let's say $10 million. That then gets, like, there's a division of that based on how many units are built on there. So it's not like every townhouse was the $10 million of land. You know what I mean? If you bought $10 million worth of land, you built how many townhouses?
Well, sure. Yeah. If you buy, typically people deal in buildable square foot, but it does eventually get carved up into units. So, so if you spent, whatever, let's say you spent 10 million on 2 acres of land, and on the 2 acres of land, you could get 65 townhouses.
Right.
Let's just say, so go 10 million divided by 65. Well, where's my math calendar here? Wrong one. There we go. Someone could probably do this math in a heartbeat. I can't.
No, I can't either.
It's $150,000.
Right. So that was
per
what I was
unit,
curious
land
about.
Cost. And in a scenario exactly like that, like I kind of, this is a real life scenario.
Yep. You're paying almost the same price.
You're paying more because you want to know why? You can go and buy a townhouse site today for less than $5 million an acre. You could buy a townhouse site for $4 million an acre.
That's crazy.
So here's the facts. If land was the problem to the affordability issue, in this very moment, if the cost of land was the problem, we would have today developers jumping on board like crazy, buying land and getting after it. Because land is more on sale today than we've seen in a long, long time. There's foreclosures out there. People are in trouble. Land is cheap. If you got money right now, you can go buy land real cheap. Turnkey land that's ready to go. Land on 200th in Langley. That's like, get your shovels in the ground and go. Land ain't the problem because the facts are a developer today on a lot of these parcels, if they were given the land for free,
they still wouldn't.
They could not put shovels in the ground, build over the next 5 years, and run a profitable pro forma based on today's numbers.
Crazy.
So now, would people take the land for free? Of course they would.
Sure.
Yeah, they'll take the land for free. But once somebody has to, if you say to the developer, you got to take the land, and now, put your money down and you got to go, which means you got to start spending more money in development, right? It doesn't make sense.
That's crazy.
So how do whenever anyone talks about affordable homes, I always like the question that in my brain, I'm like, well, what is affordable? So now, the condo that was $1 million in Vancouver today is $850, let's say. Apparently that's not affordable. And I'm not trying to sound like a dick here, but apparently that's not affordable. So what is affordable?
Well, yeah.
$650, $700.
What would that be based off of?
I know. This is what I'm getting at. And if we want to be able to get product cheaper than it is today to market, we got to look through every line item of the pro forma. And one of the most significant line items of the pro forma is government cost. And we haven't even talked about taxes. You know, property transfer tax, GST, whatever. But, you know, I'm just talking about the municipal charges and development.
That's crazy.
There you go. I wanted to talk about that. I don't have I'm not saying I've fixed the problem.
No.
But I feel like when this gets discussed, generally speaking, it's an incredibly dishonest conversation. Like whether you're whatever news cycle, whatever politician's running his mouth, her mouth, his mouth, whatever, they're not talking truthfully. And maybe they don't even know. Like, honestly, maybe they don't know. And they're just using talking points and they want to get votes or whatever. But we have got a significant problem at the municipal level in the vast majority of our country. You know, maybe not out in small town Saskatchewan or, you know, who knows, but in our major city centers, Greater Toronto, Greater Vancouver, Greater Montreal, we got a problem. And that problem needs to be addressed if we really want to talk about making homes more affordable by bringing down development costs and, just as importantly, tightening up the development timeline, because time is money when you got millions of dollars borrowed over the course of years.
Crazy.
There you go. Got anything else?
Golf coming up.
Oh yeah, do a quick current event or what's happening. So, do you know the dates off the top of your head?
18th.
So 18th.
I'm gonna pull it up right now. I know we have spots still.
What about baseball? I say baseball.
Yeah, there is baseball coming up. Hold on. It's right there. The 5th. Is that the 5th? Yeah,
I think it's the 5th. So
September 5th.
September 5th.
And then 18th.
We've got Fraser. Is that the Fraser Valley softball tournament?
I don't know.
We put a team in for the last few years.
Yeah.
So we've got, if you want to play softball, make sure you reach out. We've already got a number of people committed. I don't know what the numbers are at.
I don't know that one either.
But that's the 5th of September.
That's the 5th of September.
That's a super fun day. We have a team in.
You can come out even if you're not playing.
100%. But like we want to try to, we've done okay. We want to do a little better. So like, if you're listening to this and you've played softball or baseball and you consider yourself a player, then we want to hear from you, and we want to, anybody can reach out, but, you know, I'm specifically calling on the talent. I think last year, I feel like we finished 4th or 5th last year.
Out of?
I think we got knocked out in the semis.
I don't even know how many.
I don't know. There may be like 16 teams.
Okay. That's not bad.
Or 16 No, we did okay. But, you know, we want to do better.
Yeah, do better.
Yeah. So that's the 5th. That's a fun day. That's an all day thing. Like it's all day. Then we have golf on the 18th. Yep. And I think we've got a few.
There's definitely some spots left.
Like 10 left.
I don't know exactly how many. I just know that people haven't been actually checking their emails.
Well, it's the middle of summer. I know. I know what's going to happen is people are going to put it off. You're not going to sign up. And then there's going to be
no spots at the end.
Exactly. So if you want to play, get signed up now. Full day. We're doing the same course. We've got, I think probably more prizes and games this year by the sounds of it. We got a cannon.
I heard about
a cannon on a hole, so you can shoot your golf ball with a cannon. We'll still have a fundraising component to it for Shelter Foundation, full dinner, the whole bit. And we're actually doing it with Royal LePage Elite, which is based out of, like, they're on the other side of the river. They're like Maple Ridge, Poco kind of area. But we brought them in, and they're joining us because it enables us to get bigger numbers, which gives us just better booking for the golf course. So it's a full shotgun. Everybody starts at the same time, finishes at the same time.
It's gonna be fun.
And it'll be great. So is there anything else besides those two things?
Nope. We'll probably have office meetings sometime in September.
Yeah, in September. Yeah, actually.
We don't have any in August.
Stay tuned for that. Nothing in August, but stay tuned for the office meeting in September. We're working on something for that right now that I can't say anything about. That's a terrible teaser. I should never brought this up. But whatever. We have a meeting in September. How's that? And
positive? Like, let's
100% we have a meeting.
We gotta be careful when we say we have meetings.
There might be some details. It might be a little bit different for the September one because we're working on getting involved with some actually local developers for that meeting. but it's not finalized yet, and so I can't say the details. But it could. I'm hoping it's going to happen. It could be pretty cool.
Awesome.
So,
cool.
That's that. Thanks, dude.
That's a wrap.
We'll do it again soon.